Tonight, an avoidable tragedy. A firm who failed to implement safety measures which led to the death of a young boy in Glasgow is fined. A fatal accident inquiry will now be carried out.
To lose a child in any circumstances is unthinkable, but to lose a child in these circumstances is unforgivable.
Also making the headlines, a woman has died after a fire ripped through a block of flats in Paisley last night.
First bus threatens to axe services in Glasgow's south side after a rise in antisocial behaviour and vandalism. And the pensioners preparing to take to the skies in a replica First World War fighter plane. I'm Gordon Cree in Edinburgh. And I'm Emma Cameron in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. A firm whose failure to implement safety measures led to the tragic death of a young boy has been fined £860,000. The contractors RJ McLeod were responsible for a construction site in the Drumchapel area of Glasgow that Shay Ryan was able to enter in July 2020.
The 10-year-old bypassed insecure fencing before climbing down an open manhole, causing what's been described as an avoidable death. Susan Ripple reports.
This is the open manhole where Shay Ryan fell more than 6 metres to his death. The 10-year-old told his friends he wanted to go down it after they entered this construction site through an insecure fence. As he began to climb on the ladder, he slipped and fell. RJ McLeod, the company responsible for the site, has today been fined £860,000.
No amount of money could ever make up for losing a child, but I thought the fine should have been higher, definitely higher. At the time of this tragic accident, the community came together. It was absolute disbelief that something like this could happen. I mean, I'm a parent myself, so to lose a child in any circumstances is unthinkable, but to lose a child in these circumstances is unforgivable. And I very much hope the lessons are learned from this.
In sentencing, Sheriff Matthew Jackson, KC, said nothing this court can do can bring Shay back, who was a wonderful son and friend, as well as a loss to his family, school and all of us. He added everyone can learn from this dreadful mistake. This is a fine which will remind the company's shareholders and directors of the gravity of this offence. The group of children had been playing at a park nearby. The open manhole was just 60 metres away. At a previous court hearing, RJ McLeod was criticised for not considering the risk of children being attracted to the site, as well as not having double fencing in place. The company has since increased safety measures, and manhole covers are also subject to checks.
I hope the lessons about how you protect sites, about the security you should have on sites, particularly sites in areas where it's a community, it's a built-up area, it's not a greenfield site, it's in the middle of a community. So there should be special precautions taken to make sure that site is secure as possible and that children don't have access to it.
RJ McLeod pled guilty to failing to ensure people not in their employment weren't exposed to risks to their health and safety. No one from the firm would do an interview today. In a statement, it fully accepts the outcome and ruling of the court. It says the company has carried out a comprehensive review of the event and has taken action to protect against the risk of a reoccurrence. A fatal accident inquiry into Shay's death will take place at a later date. Susan Ripple, STV News, Glasgow Sheriff Court.
A 38-year-old woman has died after a fire ripped through a block of flats in Paisley last night. Emergency services were called to the scene at around 10:45. They've worked throughout the day to try to establish what happened. Courtney Cameron reports.
This was the scene at 10:30 in the Gallow Hill area of Paisley last night. A 38-year-old woman was pronounced dead when fire crews arrived a short time later. Today, emergency services remained on the scene after working throughout the night to try and control the blaze. The roads in the surrounding area have been closed all afternoon, so the closest I could get to the property was from this neighbour's back garden, and you can just see the building behind me here, the block of 8 flats with no roof. The fire service have confirmed that the fire began in a bottom floor flat, but what the neighbours here have told me is that they then saw the fire spread through the rest of the properties. The 8 homes affected are owned by Renfrewshire Council. It says the families affected are being supported. The incident comes just 3 years after another blaze around the corner that killed 3 children after a cigarette lighter set light to bedding. A joint investigation between the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service and Police Scotland is now underway to establish how this fire started. Courtney Cameron, STV News, Paisley.
A deep-sea diver who almost died after contracting COVID in Mexico 2 years ago has been reunited with the team who helped save his life. At one stage, things were looking so bleak, doctors told the partner of 61-year-old Davy Duncan he was unlikely to survive.
But he did, and when he came out of a coma, he proposed. Tomorrow he will tie the knot with Helen in Fort William in front of some very special guests. The nurse and taxi driver who helped him to recover following a huge fundraising effort to fly them from Mexico for their special day. Caroline Lewis has been to meet them.
David. It was the moment 61-year-old Davy Duncan had been waiting for. And when it came, it was an emotional reunion. Irma had been Davy's nurse in Mexico. She's flown to Scotland to be at his wedding. But this is the moment she'll cherish forever.
Para mí, el momento más especial ya pasó.
For me, the most special moment has passed, and it was the moment I reunited with Helen and David.
Porque yo nunca creí volver a verlos.
Because I never thought I'd see them again, and it's even more special that they got to meet my baby.
Ellos haya conocido a mi bebé.
Joining her on the trip is taxi driver Chico Garcia. When Davy's partner Helen found herself fighting for his life in a foreign country, he stepped in as translator, driving her to blood banks across the city to try and find the supplies he so desperately needed.
But when she asked me to come back, she was very sad, you know. You know, her face, I felt very sorry for her. It's gonna be a pleasure to share that moment with them.
Davy had been working as a diver in Mexico when he contracted COVID. After a series of strokes, he went into multiple organ failure, and doctors said he was unlikely to survive. But survive he did, and as soon as he was well enough, he popped the question to Helen, and the pair immediately knew they couldn't do it without the Mexican team there to celebrate with them.
I think if it hadn't been for them, realistically, I would be dead.
Their friends quickly rallied, raising £6,000 to fly the team over, and tomorrow they'll tie the knot on the shore of Loch Linnhe. And Davy is determined he'll be up on his feet for the first dance.
He's the most positive person you'll ever find. Most determined, and just being up there together, it's going to be incredible.
I'm looking forward to it very much.
What does this woman mean to you?
Absolutely everything. She's my whole life.
Davy may still be on the road to recovery, but surrounded by friends, tomorrow will certainly be a milestone to remember. Caroline Lewis, STV News, Fort William.
To other stories now, and a £7 million visitor centre focused on the rewilding of a Highland estate is opening its doors to the public this weekend. 90,000 trees a year are grown at Dungregan on the banks of Loch Ness, and now it's hoped people will visit to see how they can involve themselves with nature. The charity Trees for Life hopes the new facility will attract around 30,000 visitors a year.
The Royal Yacht Britannia is celebrating its 70th anniversary this weekend after first launching from Clydebank in 1953. Britannia has travelled around the world with the royal family in its 44 years of service and now welcomes visitors aboard at its home in Leith.
So this weekend we're marking the 70 years with a special in our Royal Deck tea room that visitors can enjoy, and over our social media channels we'll be sharing historical pictures from Britannia over the last 70 years. And it was actually at the launch that the Queen named Britannia the Royal Yacht Britannia, and the crowd cheered when she named her Britannia.
It will kill off our communities. That's the warning from fishermen on the west coast who are opposed to implementing highly protected marine areas. Today, the Scottish traditional band Skippinish have released a song in protest.
The Scottish Government wants to place 10% of our seas under tighter regulations to restore the marine environment, and it's launched a consultation. Hayley Bomma has more.
Creating highly protected marine areas has been contentious. Scottish band Skippinish have released a protest song highlighting concerns with the zones, which would see commercial and recreational fishing banned in certain spots around our coastlines. Hector Stewart owns a local shellfish business in North Uist and says having highly protected zones in their waters would create a modern-day clearance from the Isles.
Laws being imposed on us by people from outside the area and the central belt, career politicians who have absolutely no idea of what is involved and what they're dealing with. We have seen a decline here in the past 10 years that is quite shocking. And I think if they don't get on top of things soon, it's going to cause massive depopulation here.
The Scottish Government wants 10% of our seas to be classified as highly protected marine areas by 2026. That's on top of a near 40% that are already protected under law. But these plans would mean that any type of fishing, aquaculture, seaweed harvesting, oil and gas exploration, as well as offshore wind infrastructure being stopped in these areas. It's hoped it'll protect the marine environment both offshore and on.
This is necessary to protect marine life, but also to deliver some of the climate mitigation opportunities, so moving towards net zero.
We've got a commitment, and it's set in international terms to actually protect our seas. And even with some of the protected areas that we've got at the moment, those are not effectively managed.
But there has been fierce opposition to the plans. Western Isles Council says it will vigorously reject and oppose the areas.
Firstly, because of the devastating economic impact they will have across our communities. And it goes against everything we're trying to do, trying to retain our population and trying to increase our economic activity. I think the government has a really tin ear when it comes to these proposals.
But the Scottish Government says it has and will continue to listen to concerns raised as part of the consultation.
I care very much about how they feel about proposals made that would affect them. We have to protect our oceans, but I'm determined that we do that in a way which is cognisant of the socio-economic and the cultural issues which are really important right around our coastline.
By the sweep of a pen will be gone.
Fishing leaders say these highly protected areas are a sledgehammer to crack a nut, and that the importance of their industry shouldn't be overlooked.
Over the period of the consultation, I think growing recognition from coastal communities all around Scotland, including local authorities, community groups, as well as fishermen. And it's great to actually get that solidarity for, I think, the concerns that fishermen have about the impact that these proposals could have on them.
With tensions running high, it won't be easy to strike a balance between the different views. But those on both sides hope their ideas and concerns will be considered when the consultation closes on Monday. Hayley Bomma, STV News.
First Bus Glasgow is threatening to axe a range of evening services in the south side of the city after a dangerous rise in antisocial behaviour. Members of the Pollock community who would be affected by the potential cuts have started a petition to save them. But the operator says it will be left with no alternative if things don't change, as Caitlin Hutchison reports.
A recent rise in antisocial behaviour is leaving its mark on bus services in Glasgow. Verbal and physical abuse, vandalism and arson are just some of the issues facing drivers, and now evening routes running through Pollock are under threat.
My mother lives in Moss Park, so it's daily I'm up and down there. Sometimes she might not be doing too good and phone me down, so it's crucial that I get these buses.
It's like a prison sentence for the pensioners. You know, they're not going to anywhere.
No buses can't go out because can't afford the taxi.
A few months ago I wasn't upstairs, but I heard wee Wayne's lighting fire in the newspaper. I was quite scared when it happened on the bus. I had to obviously get off, but it's not fair for the bus drivers either.
First Bus say they need to work with the community and police to tackle the problem after seeing it get worse since the start of the year.
Vehicles have been completely gutted. Risk of death is resulting from these incidents. I've had a total of 21 incidents reported. 9 of those have involved fire raising. 2 of those incidents, the vehicles have been pretty much written off.
Passengers can expect to see more police officers on board, both in uniform and in plain clothes. But with the threat of cuts to services looming large, it's little comfort for those relying on them. And many have signed a petition fighting any changes to numbers 3, 10, 57 and X8.
I represent an area of high deprivation. We've got many users that have contacted me who are very concerned about the services. They're vulnerable people. They rely on the services for work and for getting to hospital. Buses to the value of $500,000 have been destroyed. So a major concern, but it is those few, or that minority causing the problem for the majority.
We do not want to be taking bus services off at all, but at the same time we have to protect staff and passengers.
Ultimately, it's a case of if it continues to be abused, it will be lost.
The message is clear. If bad behaviour on buses doesn't stop, it could be the end of the road for these nighttime services. Caitlin Hutchison, STV News, Pollock.
Police are carrying out inquiries after a man was found dead in Glasgow earlier. Officers were called to an address on Auchinloch Street at around 5:30 this morning. A man was pronounced dead at the scene and a second man was taken to Glasgow Royal Infirmary Hospital for treatment. A body has been found in the search for a hill walker who disappeared while climbing Munros. Patrick Allen Munro was last seen at a campsite in Tyndrum on the 6th of April. The body was found in the Tyndrum area yesterday morning. Police say his family have been informed. Over 250 applications for exemptions from Glasgow's low emission zone have so far been submitted by taxi drivers. Enforcement will begin on the 1st of June. To be eligible for a 1-year exemption, taxi drivers must show they either don't have the funding to retrofit their vehicles or are waiting for confirmation of work. Well, Raman's here looking ahead to the sport this weekend.
Thanks very much, Emma. A very good evening to you all. Michael Beale and Ange Postecoglou have condemned the abuse Kevin Clancy has been subjected to following last weekend's Old Firm derby. The referee and his family were targeted online, which resulted in the SFA contacting the police. Here's Ronnie Charters.
Since taking charge of Celtic v Rangers last week, Kevin Clancy has been on the receiving end of a number of threatening messages after his personal information was leaked online. Police Scotland have since launched an investigation, with both clubs criticising the abuse directed at the official.
It's something that as a club we condemn and we're not happy with. I think the referee, whoever the referee is in whatever game around the world, it's a difficult job as it is. And I think on the day the referee goes to make the decisions that he sees, I happen to think in that moment it was a wrong decision. But across the whole game, you can't count too many decisions that were up for debate.
We all understand we work in a public space and with that comes scrutiny, but you know that should begin and end within the profession of what we work in, not go into our personal lives and particularly with officials, because you know for the most part, you know, we have clubs or supporter bases that you'd like to think would go into bat for us in situations like this, but the officials are kind of left out on their own.
Meanwhile, following Ross Wilson's departure from Rangers to Nottingham Forest, Michael Beale says the club has yet to decide if a new sporting director will be appointed.
Our board and John Bennett now will take his time to assess everything and decide what comes next. In the short term, I'll oversee what happens here at the training ground day in, day out. I'm very close to recruitment staff anyway. A lot of our targets and the conversations are up and running.
The Ibrox club have a lengthy injury list for the visit of St Mirren tomorrow. Ryan Kent, Connor Goldson, Antonio Cholak, Ryan Jack, Scott Wright and Ridvan Yilmaz are all out. Meanwhile, Rio Hatate and Leila Labada are still missing for Celtic. Ronnie Charters, STV News.
Hibs captain David Marshall says tomorrow's Edinburgh derby takes on extra significance as both clubs aim to finish third, while Lawrence Shanklin believes the fixture is a good opportunity to get Hearts' season back on track. The capital sides are on a poor run of form. Hibs have lost their last 4 games, while Hearts have dropped to 4th, following 4 successive league defeats.
This takes on extra significance that both teams want to be in those European spots, and Hearts, after having that successful third place finish last year, will want to continue that. So it doesn't get any bigger, the Edinburgh derby, for both sets of clubs.
It's a great opportunity, I'll say that, for us to go and put things right. It's a big derby game, and if you go and win that, then collectively things kind of come together again, and it's a good feeling about the place. So that's what we look to do. We need to go and win a football match. The situation we're at now, it's obviously difficult, but winning football games brings confidence, and that's what we look to try and do.
St Mirren manager Stephen Robinson says he's held initial talks with the club over a new contract, but has put his future on hold as the Buddies aim to seal a top 6 spot. Robinson has just under 18 months left on his current deal. Ahead of their trip to Ibrox, the Saints boss has praised the squad's togetherness.
We put together what we think is a talented squad with players that will die for each other, and that's what you need. And if we can finish this season off, first and foremost, cement a place in the top 6, and then look to see how high we can go and where it takes us. So we're only 3 points off third. We have a lot of competition below us again, 2 very good teams in Hibs and Livingston, who've also had a very good season. So we don't get carried away with anything.
Kilmarnock manager Derek McInnes says he's drawing on all of his years of experience in the dugout to help the club through the relegation battle. Killie are in 10th place, a point above Ross County and 3 points clear of bottom club Dundee United.
I think our experience as a staff will help us over the next few while, but ultimately it's important that we try and demonstrate to everybody that we're in a fight and prepared to take that fight on. We thought we would be in a fight, and it's important for us to get better and achieve better going forward. It's just to maintain our status this season.
Well, Killie are at home to Celtic on Sunday. The Premiership games get underway tonight when Ross County hosts Aberdeen. Livingston welcome St Johnstone and Motherwell host Dundee United. Finally, in rugby, Glasgow Warriors face Scarlets at Scotland tonight, while Edinburgh take on Ospreys tomorrow for Wallaby head coach Mike Blair's last home game before he leaves the club. That's all the sport for me tonight, folks.
Really changeable conditions the last few days, but what does the weekend have in store? Philip has the weather.
Get set for a wet spell. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Hello there. Well, as we start to head through this evening and overnight, to begin with, there are plenty of scattered showers around. Again, some of these will be quite heavy, like we've seen through the course of the afternoon, but eventually they start to ease and fizzle out. So for many of us, it will be turning dry with clear skies, allowing temperatures to drop away. Where we've got the clear conditions, we could see temperatures getting below freezing. Around the coasts and for most towns and cities, though, getting down to around 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. We could also see some mist and fog patches forming overnight too. But through the course of tomorrow morning, a chilly start to the day. Any mist and fog that has formed will clear away quite quickly through the morning. And then through the afternoon, it's remaining largely fine and dry and bright. There will be plenty of sunny spells. Further east, though, more in the way of cloud, 1 or 2 isolated showers. In the best of the brightness, it will be feeling pleasantly warm. Temperatures reaching highs of around 13 or 14 degrees Celsius. So up a couple of degrees from what we've seen today. Looking ahead to Sunday, generally a cloudy start to the day, some further patchy light rain and drizzle, but again that will clear through the course of the afternoon. We will eventually see some sunny spells and highs of 15 degrees Celsius. For Monday, we keep a hold of a bit of a breeze across western parts and some showers. Away from that though, a drier day, sunny spells and temperatures reaching their peak of 18 or 19. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Finally, most of us might choose to slow down in retirement, but a group of aviation enthusiasts in East Lothian have done the complete opposite, with the sky literally being the limit.
Yes, a dream more than 2 decades in the making of not only building but flying a First World War replica fighter plane is closer than ever to becoming a reality after their Sopwith Strutter aircraft was transported to a local airfield for its final pre-flight tests. And our reporter Laura Alderman was there.
Pushing through their nerves and apprehension. Members of the Aviation Preservation Society of Scotland strap in their precious cargo. After 23 years in construction, Sophie, the Sopwith 1.5 Strutter, is on her way from East Fortune to a local airfield for final pre-flight safety checks.
Around about 2000, they decided that the aircraft they should build should be a Sopwith 1.5 Strutter. The reason for that is because they used to be based at East Fortune. East Fortune used to be a Royal Naval air station before it was an RAF station. That was in the First World War.
More than 6,000 of these aircraft were built during the Great War, but now just 3 remain. And when it's ready, this will be the only flying strutter in the world.
I think the guys will be very relieved for a start when they see her take off. But there'll be some very, very proud guys standing on that airfield.
With members aged between 16 and 99 years old, everyone here has different reasons for signing up.
Probably I was a bit down then, I think. I had 6 of the 8 symptoms of depression, I think, so that's pretty bad. So I decided, and I've been coming ever since, and it's good. It's really a lunch club with jokes on an aeroplane, really, that's basically it.
I fell in love with them. I mean, it's as simple as that. These little guys having their pieces at lunchtime and their little cups of coffee and stuff. I don't know what it was, but I just absolutely fell in love with them. I thought, I am going to film this. So I've just basically been filming it ever since.
This has been a long period of time of doing bits and pieces. Tears coming to my eyes.
The club is now attracting more young people too.
A lot of the younger generation don't see this type of thing, and it's a lot of the people here have got so much knowledge that needs to be passed on, that a lot of people that it's not being passed on.
With the project spanning so many years, sadly many of those who contributed to it are no longer with us. So to honour their efforts, a memorial plaque will be placed in the back cockpit before the first flight. And that date is coming ever closer. If she passes all of her tests and is fit to fly, Sophie could be seen as early as this summer, back over the skies of the Lothians. Laura Alderman, STV News, East Fortune.
Just time for us to fly now, but do have a great weekend.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.